Hello, welcome to this demo and presentation on Live to Travel case study. This is part of a broader presentation that explains how do you get more ROI from AI workflows. My name is Mario Favets and I'm the Chief AI Evangelist at Visas Global. A little bit about myself. Please connect with me. QR code in the top right brings you to LinkedIn. My email and phone number are there as well. As mentioned, I'm the Chief AI Evangelist at Visas, but I also work as a consultant, coach, and trainer at Boston Consulting Group, as well as I am a fellow artificial intelligence at the National University of Singapore. My background is large companies, industrial markets. I've only been in the technology space since 2019. Before we get into the specifics of Live to Travel, it's important to understand how Boston Consulting sees three strategic plays to maximize the value of AI in your organization. The first phase is the deploy phase, and that is where the majority of companies are today. And basically what it means is that individual employees are using one or more individual AI tools to improve their productivity. Productivity gains are there, they're decent, but typically limited to, I would say, 10%, 15%. And for example, a Microsoft Copilot deployment would be considered as a deploy phase. Now, the next phase is where the value creation happens, and that is when you build end-to-end workflows where AI plays a role. Now, the value creation or the productivity gains in this case reach 50% or more. The last phase is the invent phase. That's where not so many companies are. And that's where you become an AI first company and you actually build new business models. Now, who is Live to Travel? Live to Travel is a Belgian-based tour operator, and they specialize in long-haul and exotic travel. Destinations are Africa, Indian Ocean, the Pacific, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. They pride themselves of making custom-made travel experiences, ranging from adventure trips to luxurious holidays. In their portfolio, we have safaris, beach holidays, cultural journeys, and tailor-made itineraries. They are a B2B company, so they work through travel agencies in the Benelux. Benelux is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. They offer personalized service. They design travel plans based on a traveler's wishes and interest. They also provide complete travel packages, and they serve around 10,000 travelers per year. Here you see an image of their blog site for you to get a feel of how their blogs look like. And obviously we will auto-generate blogs like this, and you will see they look very, very similar. Now, what are Live to Travel's ambitions? Well, first of all, they want to scale content generation. And at the same time, they wanted their content generation teams to spend less on content generation and to focus more on customer-facing activities. They also want to improve their SEO and GEO scores. SEO is search engine optimization, and GEO is their generative counterpart. Now, what do these mean? Well, in SEO, you try to optimize your website in such a way that when consumers enter certain keywords in Google, that your company ranks on top. So this is on the Google side, but obviously a lot of the search is moving to the chatbots. So GEO, in this case, scores on how likely you are to be mentioned by ChatGPT when consumers use certain keywords. And finally, they wanted to reduce cost and spend less money on digital marketing agencies. What are Live2 Travel's requirements? They wanted to increase content production, and we currently produce 2 blogs per week, which amounts to 100 blogs per year. They wanted minimum touch. Minimum touch means that the blog had to be parked on their website in draft status, and so that they only would need to validate and click publish. They wanted 3 relevant images in each blog, 1 hero image and 2 body images. Relevant in this case means that there is a link between the context of the blog and the image. So for example, don't show a picture of Dubai when you talk about a beach in Africa. Now, there's also 3 high-quality citation requirements from reputable sources, and this is an SEO requirement. So SEO asks you to put high-quality links in your blog. Now, not only external links, but also internal links. Internal links linking to blogs that you have published in the past. They also wanted their language to be preserved, not only Dutch or French, but the way they write blogs and the language they use needed to feel like their past blogs. They wanted the integration with the Statamic web provider. That is the thing that we discussed in the minimum touch requirement. And then finally, they wanted the blog to appear in 2 languages, NL, which is Dutch, and FR, which is French. Challenges and solutions. Live2 Travel wanted us to develop 100 pillar cluster records. This is a table that is used for SEO purposes. I will show you such a table in the demo. So every time you would generate a blog, the machine will pull 1 record from this pillar cluster table. As we needed to make internal links, we had to store all their existing blogs somewhere in a structured way and with the URL, as we needed to link to them. LTT required the same look and feel as previous blogs, so that basically means that you need to create a sort of Live2 Travel language model. Newly generated blogs had to be added to the past blog list under status not released. They would only be released when during regular checks we would see that the blog has been actually published. Otherwise, this blog would be appearing in a future blog, and when people would click on it, the link would lead to nowhere. So we can only link internally to actually released blogs. External research. Initially, we tried to make it work with Perplexity, which is an AI node, but eventually we decided not to use Perplexity and to use simple Brave search and work with a whitelist of reputable sources. It made the workflow a lot more consistent. We did use Perplexity as the critic of the blog that was generated by a Google Gemini node. So we use Perplexity to read through the blog and do fact checks. And I think Perplexity is a good option for that. If you want a consistent workflow, a workflow that performs, it is crucial that at the end of each step, you make sure that you have a stable output structure. Destination is something that we made a centerpiece of the blog, so all pillar cluster records need to have a destination in one of their columns, because we had to match the images to the destination. We did some AI tool selection as well. As you know, not all tools are good at everything. New tools come out every week. So it is important to pick the right tool for the right task at the right cost. And then pricing, obviously, the blogs generated or the subscription they pay per month for the blogs needed to be lower than them producing the blocks themselves, even using ChatGPT. Now, they told us it takes about 4 hours for them to build a block with ChatGPT. And that is obviously linked to the whole ROI discussion. Now, these are the tools that we've used in this worksheet. You will not see DeepL. I'm using OpenAI notes for translation because it didn't work, but DeepL would have been my first choice for translation. We have Airtable for the storage of records. We have Firecrawl to scrape past blocks and store them. The centerpiece, the tool that we use, is called n8n. And then we used Cursor and Claude for troubleshooting. The actual blog is written by Gemini. Now let's go to the demo. Before we start the demo, I'd like to show you the website of Live to Travel. This is their website, and here on top you see a blog section. When you click on the blog section, it takes you to the blog page, and here are some blogs. These are not generated blogs by us. These are their generated blocks. When I click on them, you see a certain look and feel. You have the hero image with the title. You have a few tags here. And then you have the blog. So you look, there's some images in there, but definitely what is missing in these blogs are the external and internal links that are important for search engine optimization. So let's move to the workflow. The workflow is looking like this. When I zoom out, you will see that the workflow is quite large. And this is only part of the workflow. This is the block generating piece of the workflow. We also have a workflow to create the pillar cluster table and to scrape the internal blocks. But this is outside the scope of this demo. So when we zoom in, we see more in detail how the workflow works and see this as a data pipeline that moves data through the workflow from the left to the right. In n8n, you have a trigger. So here you see the trigger node. And for example, this workflow runs once a week, every Sunday. In the beginning here, you see these 3 nodes. These 3 nodes are what we call HTTP nodes. So they connect to a website. And basically what these nodes do is that we collect the themes, the tags, and the destinations of Live to Travel, because we will need them later on. Remember the tags? The tags are these 3 things here: Qatar, Live to Travel Tips, Middle East. And the destination is important because we want to make sure that we only use destinations that are on their lists of destinations. Then you see 2 what I would call Airtable nodes here. These are Airtable nodes. And I use Airtable to store data. So we have 2 important Airtable nodes. We have the pillar cluster Airtable node that you see here. And here you see the pillar is Caribbean inspiration. Then you have the cluster name, which is a subset of the pillar. Then you have search intent. So what is the consumer looking for when triggering this record? We have keywords, and we have a focus key phrase, which is basically the primary keyword. That keyword will be put in the title and definitely at the introductory paragraphs. Then at the end, we have a column that says if this block was completed or not. Because every time the workflow is run, it's gonna pick one of these records that has completion set to no. You will see here there's a few blocks where completion is set to yes. So it will not pick these blocks anymore. So we have 199 of these pillar cluster records. And then here is the past block history. Why do we need that? Well, we need it because we want to do internal linking. Here you see that you have the URLs, and so when we do internal linking, we need these URLs. Now here at the end, you see published or not. If the blog is not published, we cannot link to it internally. Yeah. So we will watch the website, scrape it on a regular basis to see if these blogs are actually published or not. So far the tables. Here we see a list of tours, and this is the NL, this is a Dutch piece. And we have the country of these tours, and we also have a list of hotels, including the URL and a short hotel description. They wanted to list some of the hotels and the tours in their blogs. So let's go back to the blog here and let's run this thing. Before I continue talking about it, when I hit execute workflow, you see that the workflow is executed. And the blog is actually going through all the nodes and moving the data pipeline from left to right. So here I will show you what is happening. So when I zoom out, you see the blog is running here. It's making a preliminary plan. From there, it's gonna go to this node, which is the search module. And then when it actually aggregates the hotel information, the tour information about that destination, as well as the plan, it will actually proceed and create I would say, a detailed blog plan. The detailed blog plan is running now. Once it has made a detailed plan, it will actually move to the actual writing of the blog. So let's go back while this is running. Let's go back and I will explain what is actually happening here. So in the first few nodes, what we do is we connect to the website to see what is available. And here, these two Airtable nodes, what we try to do here is to pick a record where the completed column is set to no. Once we've created that record, and we've created here, the record that we selected is this one. So it says smart stopovers. This is about making a stopover in Abu Dhabi when, for example, flying from Europe to Australia. So what's happening here is that we extract the destination, because the destination may not say Abu Dhabi. It may say stopover on the way to Australia, for example. So it will need to get the destination from somewhere. And we said that in the pillar cluster table, we would make destination a centerpiece. Yeah? So somewhere destination is in this table, and the workflow needs to filter it out. Now, once it has found the destination, it needs to pull the hotels and the tours from this website here. So here we have the tours in Dutch, in French, and we have also the hotels in Dutch and in French together with the links. So what this is doing is it finds these in the table and it extracts these links. The bottom here you see some translation notes. I would use DeepL normally. I've chosen OpenAI in this case because DeepL didn't work, but I don't remember what the reason was. So once we translate the keywords, remember the cluster pillar table was in Dutch, and these language models don't really work with other languages than English. They do work, but it's not as good. So I need to convert these terms in the cluster pillar table. I need to translate them to English, and that is what these 4 AI nodes do here. You can see the OpenAI logo, so that means that these are AI nodes. When I click on them, it's very simple. You have a prompt, You're an expert in the English and Dutch language. Your task is to translate and then the focus key phrase to French. All right, but it should be English in this case. Okay. So in any case, it has selected English. Yeah, it says layover in Abu Dhabi. So when we proceed here, we see that and the block has been executed. So it took a few minutes. When we look at this here, it first starts with a preliminary block plan. Basically what it does is it takes, and this is the prompt for it, it takes the pillar cluster information, and based on that information, it will develop a rough plan for the block. That plan will then be used by Brave Search to find external reputable sources. You see this plan is already quite long, and you see here output format. So this is the output format. Yeah, it's a JSON file. It's a structured file, which is quite significant. Remember, in workflows, we want to make the output always structured because there's always a following node that takes this output as an input. And so you see that this JSON file is quite lengthy and quite detailed. Then there's some requirements that we put in the prompt. These requirements, are they in the beginning there? Probably not. But usually when I run the node and I don't get what I want, I usually put these things in. So it's a bit of an iterative process with trial and error. So once we have the plan, what I do is I go and look for the reputable sources. Now in the past we used Perplexity for it and it did not really work very well. So what I did is, and these accolades here, these orange accolades are a code node. So when you click on it, the content, this is JavaScript. But when I go down here, you will see a list of whitelisted websites. So these are basically all the offices of tourism of the specific country, but it also includes some travel sources like Lonely Planet and others. So that means that the selection of the external links I don't put in the hands of AI. I make a whitelist and I just take a search engine to look in the whitelist. Now what you see then next is what we call a merge node, which is this node here. And basically what it does, it pulls the preliminary plan, it pulls the external resources, it pulls the list of hotels and tours and combines it into one merge node. So once all of this merge is happening, we go with a block plan node, and that's an anthropic node. Now when you click on it, here I use Claude Sonnet 4.5, which is pretty powerful model. And here again, prompt is quite long. I need to tell the AI what the objective is. I need to give some structure on how the block will look like. So the whole trick here is to make sure that you reduce the variability of the block parameters. So use always the same sections. Use always the same sections for putting in images. Put the images always at the same location. If you give the AI too much freedom, your block consistency will be gone. So you see that block is quite lengthy, and again here you see some crosses here. Why these crosses there? I did not invent them, but for example in this one, no prices or booking language. That must be because it showed prices and booking language, and I didn't want that. So I adjusted the prompt to make sure it doesn't do that anymore. So once we have the plan, then we start the actual writing of the blog. And here you see the right blog note. This is a Gemini note using Gemini 2.5 Pro. I think it's a good model. Can I use another model? Yes. No. There's plenty of models in there. There's literally 100 models available. So when you look at the prompt of this blog, you see it takes in a lot of input data. All these green things are data fields or previous data fields. And you give it some rule specifications. For example, total length about 750 words. Will the AI comply with it? No, it will not. But trial and error has taught me that when I put that number in, the blog will be of a decent length. And you do this for every little detail. Language requirements, you have to say what style, who the audience is, the output format. Remember, very, very important. It's HTML because we need to post this thing on Live to Travel's website. And then here you have a detail of the structure of the blog. So you have an introduction, activities, cultural and traditions. H3 means that's a certain heading. This is Markdown or HTML language. Best travel time is a section. The hotels. I have to specify that it can only be a hotel that is in the list of Live to Travel, so it can only come from this list. If the hotel is not from this list, that's a mistake. So go back, here the same thing, and you see that this blog is quite lengthy. Another heading is Live to Travel tips, closing paragraph, and so on. The citations are important. Remember, we need external and internal links. Here I have to say how the citations need to appear in the blog. And I also need to give some examples of things that are not correct. These three, for example, these are examples on how it should not be. Also important, because if you don't tell the agent what it cannot do, it will do it. So basically, all these prompts, you see that a lot of the details of the prompt are making the agent less flexible. And that's what you want. Too much flexibility for an agent will make your blog process inconsistent. So you see it keeps on going. You have to tell it that it cannot put all the 3 citations in the introductory paragraph. You also better tell it how many citations. So in this case, 3. If you don't specify it, it will be all over the place. Then you emphasize on what is absolutely forbidden, and it goes on, right? So it's quite of a lengthy prompt. So now we see that here in this case, once I've written the blog, now you see I have a fact check note, and this is a perplexity note. So the only role, and here you have the prompt as well, it's not as long, but the only role of this note is to challenge all the facts of the blog written by the Gemini note. And so what we have here, blog fact checked, this is basically the blog after it has been fact checked by Perplexity. Now let me copy this blog. Let me go to ChatGPT, open a new chat, and say convert into readable text. So you should see the blog appearing in this case. So when we run it, here you go. This is the blog. It starts with an italic hook. And here are the sections. And this blog is written in Dutch as we requested. Cultures, traditions. Here is the list of hotels. And you can see that the links are present as well. And then at the end, we have the external links. You see National Geographic, Lonely Planet. So this all worked. So what is next? Next, remember, we need to put internal links in. Internal links also for SEO purposes. So what we first gonna do is we're gonna search the past blogs. So if I use this Airtable here, we're gonna look at where were the past blogs, and there's 8 items. These come from this table, Live to Travel past blogs. So from 9 to 13, these are the new blogs, but the number 8 was the last blog they made themselves. Go back here. So here is the code node that adds the internal links. I used an AI for that in the past, but again, consistency was problematic. So I use a code node. So one of the key rules is here, if you can avoid an AI node, avoid it. Only use it when you really, really need it. So once the internal links are put into the blog, if it found a match with a past blog, it will put it in. And then here you see that we start on top, we start the French track. So now we have a blog with internal links. All these links are Dutch, and also the URLs are Dutch. So what I need to do here is I need to take in the hotels and the tours together with the blog as well as the past blogs, and I need to swap the links. So I take the Dutch blog, look at the links, and swap them with their French counterpart. And that's how I then translate the blog. So now we have here swap links. The output is a Dutch blog with French links. Now what I want to do is translate that blog. So it's a French blog with French links. Now at the bottom, what we start to do now is we start to add items to the blog. A slug is a URL that will point to that blog. Then we have a title for the blog and a meta description, which is a short description. Title is important. When I click on the note, and here you see that I need to specify not more than 8 words, and I need to make sure that the focus key phrase appears in the title. This is also an SEO requirement. So the title it found for this one is, it's a stopover in Abu Dhabi. Okay, so now the blog is ready. We have a title, we have a blog, we have internal links, external links. The thing that we need to figure out now is how to find images and how to place the images. The first thing I do is I look for local terms. Remember, these images need to be parts or reflecting the context of the blog. So I want to know what are all the local terms, landmarks in Abu Dhabi. Then I build a query. Here, this orange accolades, this is again a JavaScript node. So this is pure JavaScript code. It's quite lengthy. It's 400 lines of code. And then I will query for the images. And you see this is a loop here. This is a search images node. When I click on it, you will see that I use SERP API, which is Google search. And it has found, maybe 200 images. These are 19 rounds of 10 images. What I do then is I make sure that I filter the correct images, because this is AI, and usually there's a lot of bad images or irrelevant images. So I extract and then I make a selection. The selection is a filter. So here at the output, I have my 3 images. I have the hero image and I have the 2 body images. So what I then do is I put everything together in a merge node. So I have my images At the bottom here I have the blog, and in the middle here I pull in the tags. Remember, the blogs need tags. Then I will insert the images and publish it to the website. So this node here is where the blog is published on the Live to Travel website. You see here Live to Travel website. The blog was created successfully. What I then need to do is the same on top, which is the French site, and I create the blog on the French site. And this, you see, the blog has been created successfully in French as well. Then finally what I do is I put two updates. First of all, remember, I need to change the completed from yes to no. Let's see if I can find it here somewhere. Yeah, stopover in Abu Dhabi, it has been moved to yes. When I look at past blogs, you see here also number 13 is Abu Dhabi. So then I have two Airtable updates to do. I need to make sure that this completed goes from no to yes, so we don't pick that record anymore when we launch the workflow again. Now let's move to the past blog section. So in this case, you will see that a new record has been created. Stopover in Abu Dhabi, and you can see here the URLs for both the Dutch and the French version. Published is no, meaning that as long as it is not published, I will not be able to refer to this link as an internal link. Now it's time to go and take a look at the result. So the blog should appear, and you can see the little bullet is not green here. So this has been a blog that has just been created. Now, if we click on it, we can get a preview of the blog. Let me put it in preview mode here. So you will see how the blog has been constructed, and you recognize the Live to Travel look and feel. Here is the hero image. We can see that the tags have been nicely created. The article starts with a hook, and then we have sections that explain what to do if you make a stopover in Abu Dhabi. You see the images are quite relevant. You can see here the numbers. These numbers point to the external links that we will find at the bottom. The images are positioned in the activities section right after the title, and we have the same for culture. So right after the title, and then the blog continues discussing about culture and opportunities to visit certain sites. Then we have a section on the best travel time, and here we have a list of hotels for the stopover, and at the same time we make the link to a longer trip to the Emirates, and we refer here to existing tours from Live to Travel. And here at the bottom you see the links. You click on these links and you will find extra information. Here it's again an article about Abu Dhabi as a city break. Now let's move out of this one. So let's leave. And now let us take a look at the French version. So here is the same. We go to the bottom, and here you can see the blog has been created. When clicking on it and looking at the preview, we see a quite similar blog in this case, but in French. You see one of the tags has been dropped. It's the Middle East. This is what I mean, that with AI, you're never 100% guaranteed. So this French block might be slightly different from the NL block, although it should be a translation. But you see here, the external sources are still there, images are the same, hotels are the same, and here also they point to a potential longer trip to the Emirates later on. Here there's tips, as well as the sources at the bottom. So you can see that we've completed 2 blocks, and we meet all the requirements that Live to Travel had given us at the start of the project. So this concludes my demo. If you want to get in touch, or if you have any questions, I refer back to the contact details in this video.